Hey everyone, welcome to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette's live stream. I'm Chris Carter. He's Brian Batko. Crazy breaking news. The Steelers have traded for Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith from the Miami Dolphins, sending away Minkah Fitzpatrick. We're going to cover all of it here on a special live edition of the North Shore Drive podcast. Let's get into it. You are now listening to the North Shore Drive podcast, a show on all things Pittsburgh sports from the writers of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, hosted by Christopher Carter. Hello and welcome to the North Shore Drive podcast. I'm Chris Carter. He's Brian Batko. We're your Steelers writers here at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And as always, you can find this show on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to this channel to get all of our Monday, Wednesday, Friday episode, as well as our daily content that comes out from all of our sports writers here at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And as always, you can find this show. As always, this show is sponsored by Edgar Snyder Associates, brought to you by Edgar Snyder Associates. They help you when you're injured in an accident. They help you when you have workers' compensation. Be sure to check them out at 1-800-94-EDGAR because there's never a fee unless they get money for you. Brian, we got stuff to talk about here today. I want to just let you go for a sec here. Your immediate thoughts on the trade again, the full swap that we understand as it is this moment. It seems to be changing every 5 minutes here, but the Steelers have sent away Minkah Fitzpatrick and a seventh round pick. Or no, I might be getting this back. I think they're sending away Minkah Fitzpatrick and a fifth round pick for Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith, and a seventh round pick. So a late round swap, getting a cornerback and a tight end while sending away your safety and one of your captains. What is your first reaction to this big move?
Yeah, I mean, just set the scene here. This is the time of year, Chris, where the NFL kind of goes quiet. You know, players are out of the facility for the most part. Coaches are starting to enjoy some vacations. And the Steelers and the Dolphins decided to just absolutely command the NFL news cycle right now here in late June. And I think some of this stuff was percolating. You'd been hearing, seeing, observing the rumblings and whispers about Jalen Ramsey and the Steelers, Jonnu Smith and the Steelers. But we've got to, I mean, the biggest shoe to fall here, Chris, is Minkah Fitzpatrick leaving Pittsburgh after what? 19, 20, 21, 22, 6 years here where he became one of the most popular players on the team. He was a team MVP one year, was he not?
Yeah.
For the Steelers, as you know, picked by his teammates, All-Pro multiple times. Countless fans here in Pittsburgh where we live and elsewhere in Steeler Nation rocking the number 39 jersey. And just like that, he's gone. And, you know, maybe there was an inkling out there that the Steelers and Minkah were a little bit having some friction because, you know, he's somebody who he was at the crux of the communication issues at times last season. And I think he was always trying to walk that line of freelancing, making a play, but also being, you know, the laser focused, instinctual Minkah Fitzpatrick, who's the last line of defense. And I don't know if that tension spilled over and both sides wanted a fresh start, but it sure seems like that is the case. And I'm not going to lie to you and be a know-it-all. I didn't see that coming.
I did not. And this is my thing. I let people know when I think I saw something coming, when I was like, hey, and the Jalen Ramsey trade, we talked about it with Ray Fittipaldi. I think we talked about it with you. I thought, hey, this could work in a fantasy world where the Steelers could just make moves like Madden. And I was like, hey, they normally don't do things like this. They've signed Darius Slay. They have Joey Porter Jr. They're confident in Corey Trice. They like their cornerbacks. Why would they go add another one? Not to mention Jonnu Smith. We'll get to that later. But getting him and sending away Minkah Fitzpatrick, the guy who said, someone put this up in one of my threads because they brought back up a quote that I published in the story when we talked to Minkah Fitzpatrick back during OTAs. But Minkah Fitzpatrick literally said at one point, if you don't want to be here, Well, he said, quote, if you don't want to do it, you're not going to be here. We're instilling that in everybody, talking about the communication levels that they're trying to have, because communication breakdowns were a big part of the secondary last year. And it was something that he and DeShon Elliott specifically kept saying, this is unacceptable. This has to change. Minkah Fitzpatrick has been part of the culture that the Steelers have been embracing on defense for years. And yes, he's only had one interception in the last 2 seasons, but he was still the guy, the glue that kept together the secondary on the back end, kept big plays from ripping them apart play after play, and was kind of making up for Dante Jackson at times, making up for Cam Sutton at times, making up for Beanie Bishop at times. And he was fine for doing that. Now the Steelers are saying, you know what, Minkah, we don't need you here right now. And that is just, I had, in all the ways that I saw the Steelers making moves this offseason, I did not see Minkah Fitzpatrick going away in any form of these moves. And to get Jalen Ramsey to come in here, Brian, it makes me wonder, what is their plan for the cornerback position? Is it Jalen and Joey on the outside with Darius Slay in some situational position? Or are one of them going to go Patrick Peterson and bump back to the safety position?
I was going to say, that was initially why I was perplexed, because, you go back to, I wasn't completely discounting the Steelers acquiring Jalen Ramsey, just because player of his caliber, and yes, he's older now, but he's still got the versatility to line up pretty much anywhere. And I figured they could find a role for him, find a place for him, and just try to get your best 11 on the field, or try to get your best 5 or 6 DBs on the field. And that equation can still include Joey Porter Jr. and Darius Slay. If Jalen Ramsey's kind of that hybrid slot corner overhang type of position, sometimes he's going to be in coverage. Sometimes he's going to blitz. He's going to come up and run support because he's a bigger body. Now, though, trading Minkah away, does Ramsey want to play safety? Is that something that the Steelers and he have sort of back-channeled with? And I think Dan mentioned it in the chat here, and now Michael mentions it in the comments here, that Ramsey played some safety in college. I think he technically played what they called the star position in Tallahassee at Florida State. So it's got a lot of things combined in it. Minkah did that at Alabama and with the Dolphins as well. So maybe that is the vision for the Steelers. Hey, Jalen Ramsey isn't, the bump and run lockdown corner that he used to be, but he's still got a lot of other traits that can help us. And we're going to put him back there with DeShon Elliott and see what happens. Any way you slice it, Chris, I mean, this is like you said, kind of like playing Madden. I mean, I don't want to say that Omar Khan hasn't done things like this, because we've seen some big trades. DK Metcalf was one that caught me off guard. Even last year, how they handled the quarterback position was pretty un-Steelers-like. This one is maybe trumps all of it. So, fascinating move here. And, I was talking to, just briefly texting with a beat writer from around the league who covered Jalen Ramsey at one of his previous stops, and said, I think he might want to play safety at some point in the NFL. So maybe that's the next shoe to drop.
Let's talk about that, because if wherever Jalen Ramsey goes, cornerback or safety, I think also impacts the question of, is this a good deal for the Steelers? Because my thinking is this: if the Steelers want to be able to be able to play the press style of corner that they want to play, right? Ramsey, Slay, and Joey Porter Jr. make a ton of sense to just, hey, get up in these receivers' faces, get to work on them, and we'll have guys protect you from behind. But again, it made more sense when Minkah was one of the guys, because you liked DeShon Elliott. We liked, I think you and I both agree, we liked the addition of Juan Thornhill as the third safety. And with him and Minkah Fitzpatrick, you could have 6 DBs. You could be in the dime sitting there saying, hey, we got 3 dudes that are protecting our aggressive corners in this theoretical world where they didn't trade away Minkah Fitzpatrick and they got a Jalen Ramsey type cornerback. And now you can do a lot of stuff with that. But now Minkah Fitzpatrick's out the picture. And I don't know what that does to their safety position. So it brings up the point that you just brought up. Does Jalen Ramsey want to play safety? Will they have him play safety? Jalen Ramsey did a crazy cut up, which I got to say, this was cool. Like aesthetic wise, like we're reporters, and we're being level headed. We're trying to keep everyone objectively locked in here. As a Pittsburgher, that old John Facenda NFL Films cut up where, like, in the NFL, there's 27 teams, and then there's the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Jalen Ramsey took like a John Facenda AI voice, capped it over like an NFL intro that was about him joining the Steelers. And I have to say, like, it was very creative. I kind of liked it. I was like, I dig what this guy knows the history. For him to know that video is the thing, that's pretty cool. But I gotta go back and watch it again, because I don't know, did he say cornerback or did he say defensive back? Because that might tip whether he wants to go safety or corner for the Steelers.
Yeah, I would have to go back and listen as well. I would imagine somebody from his management team probably helped him put that together too.
Absolutely.
But little invoking a little bit of like Drake using AI to have Tupac's voice in his Kendrick Lamar rap beef. So yeah, sort of out of nowhere, but I do love a player breaking his own news, as Jalen Ramsey put it. So that was cool. But yeah, I mean, this is one that, Juan Thornhill suddenly becoming a pivotal piece for the 2025 Steelers wasn't on my proverbial bingo card, as they say. Yeah, I mean, they had money to spend for sure, especially once they get Aaron Rodgers in here at $13 million. And, you're looking at having a lot of wiggle room with the cap. And, as far as the all-in approach or lack thereof for the Steelers, I still don't even know that there's anything in like, I think Omar Khan, Mike Tomlin and company, they're just trying to make moves that they think make their team better. And whether that's an overall grand sweeping plan for 2025 or 2026 or beyond, there's going to be a lot that we still have to figure out here once we get to talk to them at the next opportunity. And once some of this, once some of these details start to leak out to us and others who cover the NFL or cover the Steelers.
Shout out to this commenter right here helping us out on the live chat, because we can't like watch videos while we're live chatting. Maldania8947, thank you for clarifying. He said shut down corner on his expos. So that tells me he's not coming here to play free safety if he's bragging about being a shutdown corner. Jalen Ramsey's coming to Pittsburgh to play cornerback, to be a shutdown cornerback, and it makes me wonder, what if the change is maybe Darius Slay jumps back to safety?
I don't know. We also might just be reading too far into an AI.
Could be. But let's take a step back. Let's do a quick ad break, because we got to get our advertisers in here for Edgar Snyder Associates. But don't go anywhere, because we are talking about this for a while. This is going to be a longer episode. It's going to be a more regular episode. We're going to do that here. Brian, see if you can get me some headphones in the meantime while we do this. But first, we're going to remind you this show is brought to you by Edgar Snyder Associates. They help you with workers' compensation as well as when you're injured in an accident. But when you're hurt on the job, you need to know who decides when you're better, who decides when the treatment's over, and who decides when the benefits are over. The answer might surprise you. It's always the insurance company's doctors. They don't have your back. You know who does have your back? Edgar Snyder Associates. Call them today at 1-800-94-EDGAR, and they'll fight for the workers' compensation rights that you deserve. And remember, there's never a fee unless they get money for you. We're back here on the North Shore Drive podcast. I had to do a quick ad break there. Shout out our sponsors, Edgar Snyder Associates. We still got a lot to discuss here. So, okay, to your point, Brian, this might not mean much that he said a shutdown corner in a random AI video that he constructed. But I think that there's a good question here that it should play. Like, hey, someone else says, hey, is Jalen playing safety? We don't know yet. We're trying to figure that out. But here's the other thought here, Brian. What if the Steelers have another move coming for the safety position? What if they go get somebody who's available right now? I've seen a lot of people. I'm trying to find your comments because there's a lot of them flying in. We appreciate everyone who's commenting right now, everyone who's watching with us live here. So it's taking me to find them. Dan from Twitter says Simmons will be chef's kiss. That's Justin Simmons is the big name, I think, out there right now. I'm looking on Spot right now to see like which safeties are out there. Javon Holland, I believe, these are signed free. These are, let me go to available. Okay. Your available free safeties, according to Spot Rack right now, are Marcus Williams, Justin Simmons, Jordan Poyer, Rodney McLeod, and DeShon Gibson. The youngest of those is Marcus Williams, former Raven. He didn't have a good stint in Baltimore. I doubt it would be him. Justin Simmons would be a heck of an addition, in my opinion. He's 31.6 years old. He'd be in that same kind of age range as Jalen Ramsey. This would be all making kind of moves to prepare for now. What would you say, Brian, to the idea of them going and getting a Justin Simmons type safety right now in free agency where you don't lose any more draft compensation?
Yeah, I mean, my question would still just become, what is the plan for Ramsey then? What is the plan for Darius Slay? I mean, is
Right.
Slay going to become essentially just a sub package player, and then maybe Jalen Ramsey bumps into the nickel position when they're in nickel and dime? I don't know. I guess if you're Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin and Gerald Alexander, you say that's an antiquated way of even thinking and looking at it. We just need good players and we'll figure out how to deploy them. But these are also grown men, paid professionals. And in the case of several guys we just mentioned, 30-some-year-olds who are very accomplished in the NFL with rings on their fingers, all-pro accolades to their name, big old contracts under their belts in some cases, they're going to want to know the role allocation aspect of the secondary. So, I mean, hey, Justin Simmons is the only name that really stands out to me of the guys you just mentioned. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I have a great feel for what he did last season with the Falcons when they acquired him. I'll have to look more into that and kind of formulate my own mind on what he has left in the tank. But I know a few of those other players that you mentioned are definitely getting up there. And like you said, Marcus Williams couldn't really get on the field in Baltimore by the end of it. So
I just want to shout out our commenters here who are going nuts in the we got a is Jalen playing safety? Is Trice going to safety? Is Darnell Washington going to safety? So shout out to our
Sebastian Castro, the undrafted free agent from Iowa, getting some love there. I mean, he looked so good in football and shorts that the Steelers said we should trade Minkah Fitzpatrick.
So
Julian Blackmon's also a free agent safety. I'm not sure why he didn't come up on your search.
That's
there,
weird.
But
I like Julian Blackmon. I like Julian Blackmon. I think he also, because here's the other aspect of this, Brian, right? Like Minkah Fitzpatrick. Let me make sure I'm not lying here. Minkah Fitzpatrick, I believe he's still in his late 20s. So like,
yeah, he's going to be 29 in November.
Right. So like presumably he still had about, I think, 3 more years of like prime age for an NFL defensive back. So them trading for Jalen Ramsey, he's slightly older. He's 31, I believe. Let me pull up his age. So I'm not talking. But so he's 31. So you get older with this trade. So that kind of signals more to like a, hey, we're trying to win now. Like we are trying to win right now. We're not as concerned. And Brian, I've been talking for months about the Steelers. Their plan is to have the roster ready for 2026 because they want to draft that quarterback. They want to bring him into a good situation. And this move, I don't know if it greatly impacts that status here because Jalen Ramsey is only a year and a half older than Minkah Fitzpatrick. So I don't know if it impacts that status of things, but I do think that it brings into question how much weight is now put on this season, because I've been saying for a while, hey, I think this is a year where if they win a playoff game, great, but this is not a Super Bowl window. You don't make blockbuster trades like this unless you got some plans to do some serious damage in the very near future, in my opinion.
I still don't think they're there. I mean, I still don't think they're Super Bowl contenders. Yeah. So, I mean, that does muddy the waters a little bit as far as what are you doing here? And that's why I said before we took the quick break there that I don't know that this is some sort of Omar Khan, Omar coming, we're pushing all our chips in the middle because we're about to swing for the fences. Like, I think this could be a couple things. And again, I'm just being honest here. We don't know yet necessarily. Yeah. This is all happening in real time. We're trying to process it, appreciate everybody who's listening to us do it with you all. And, our job here is to hopefully have
ironic.
Hey, check out when we all get to take a breath, check out my story on Ben Skoranek from yesterday on Post-Gazette.com. Thank you. He's told me he's jokingly lobbied to play defense for the Steelers, but here's what I'm getting at here though is, what we don't know is, did things become untenable for some reason between Minkah and the Steelers?
It's a good question.
Was everything cool, but the brain trust decided Minkah, and you mentioned the ages of the guys and Minkah still being in his prime more or less. Well, it's not a cookie cutter. You're going to fall off at this age or you're going to be good until this age. I mean, some guys age quicker than others. Some guys lose a step before others. If the brass there for the Steelers decided, I think Minkah's best football is behind him, we should listen to any offers that we get for him, then that could be part of this as well. Or again, it just comes down to they're trying to make their team better and they're doing it when a move presents itself, and in this case, the cold and calculating aspect of the front office is just viewing it as, yeah, we've loved our time with Minkah and we've got a lot of great memories with him, but now's the time to move on. And we think Jalen Ramsey is a better player right now, or at least the combination of Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith make us better right now for 2025. Even if Chris Carter, Brian Batko, and other people in the media don't think that we're catching the Chiefs, Ravens, Bills anytime soon.
Well, so here's the thought here too: is that like I've been one on the side. There's a lot of people who said Minkah Fitzpatrick's washed. He's bad now. He's only had one interception in the last 2 years. I've been on the side for quite some time. I think the Minkah Fitzpatrick isn't washed. I think that he's been in a position where teams have been able to pick at Dante Jackson and Patrick Peterson the last couple of years. They've been able to pick out a young Joey Porter Jr. And so teams have been able to more actively avoid him in their game planning and say, hey, you know what? We're just not putting it near 39 and we don't want him to make a play. And like when I look at tape, I see that a lot. I see like, hey, wherever Minkah Fitzpatrick goes, teams are saying, hey, we're going over here because that they can avoid that.
But don't you also see, Chris, dudes running by Minkah in 2019?
He's not the run defender
hand on that
he used
guy
to be.
and brings him down. Or
I agree.
I think of the Bills playoff game, there were some plays where, and I'm not just saying this because the guy's out the door now and I feel like I can dunk on him. I think I tweeted about this or mentioned it at the time. There were some plays at the end of that playoff game in Buffalo where it's like, man, where is the backside pursuit? I mean, this could be the last game of the season. And it almost seemed like Minkah was, I don't want to say loafing, but I mean, it wasn't the kind of motor you want to see anybody play with, let alone the last line of defense. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if he was dealing with injuries in that game or if he just hasn't been right the last couple years. But if the physical nature of the sport's taking a toll on you too and diminishing what you can do out there, then, that's kind of a contributing factor to the blanket statement of he's washed or he's getting washed. So the Steelers need to be mindful of that as well.
Agreed. Let's go to a fan who thank you for paying for the chat option here. We'll definitely get your question on here. AAA 973 asks for $5.
That's Dre. Dre's the big dog.
That's great. That's Dre. That's Dre. Now, I don't know. Is this Dre Turner? If this is Dre Turner, please let us know in the comments because Dre Turner is my homie from Peabody. Played for my dad back in the day. I don't know if that's just any Dre or if it's that Dre because sometimes Dre wants me to know that. But anyways, I appreciate the emergency episode. Shocked about Minkah, but how about the offense? What does Jonnu do for the offense? Okay, so this is the other aspect of this, Brian. I thought the Jonnu Smith stuff was pure smoke. I thought that was Drew Rosenhaus being like, "Oh, hey guys, the Steelers really want Jonnu Smith because my client here, Jonnu Smith, deserves a new contract with the Miami Dolphins. He really does." And I thought that's what was happening here. No, they really go and get this guy. But here's my other question here, Brian. I just did a whole thing last week about writing about, hey, this is the year for Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington to be the 1-2 punch at tight end with Aaron Rodgers. They haven't been unlocked yet, and this is going to be awesome for them. Nope, throw that out the window. Jonnu Smith's in town. That man literally set franchise record for Dolphins tight ends and catches, receptions, and touchdowns. He's going to pair with Pat Freiermuth. Darnell Washington becomes a third option. Is Arthur Smith just going to go all tight ends next year? Is that the plan here? How do you see the offense working?
Well, I think they do want another guy at that position and certainly another pass catcher as well. Jonnu is a tight end who's, he's more like a big wide receiver in a lot of ways, the way you would utilize him. So I'm not stunned because I think if it were just his agent trying to drum up some interest, he didn't, it wouldn't necessarily have been targeted at the Steelers where their offensive coordinator is Jonnu Smith's longtime offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, with the Titans, with the Falcons. We know Arthur Smith got a lot of his previous dudes in here a season ago when he first started with the Steelers. Now, they weren't the type of, playmaker resume that Jonnu Smith has, but, Van Jefferson, Michael Pruitt had, came in here, Scotty Miller, Cordero Patterson's the big one. So, the Steelers already have a recent and somewhat thorough history of getting Arthur his guys when he lobbies for them. I'm assuming he lobbies for them. I think it would be kind of naive not to. And that's not a shot at Arthur Smith because I think a lot of coaches do that. You want people you're familiar with. If you like a guy, you're going to run it up the flagpole to your head coach, your GM, your scouts, and say, I think this guy can really help us. He can do X, Y, and Z in my scheme. So, the Steelers did signed Donald Parham this offseason. He wasn't a dude last year in the NFL. He was on a practice squad, but he had been earlier in his career. And he's another, tight end who can stretch the field a little bit, make some plays in the passing game. He goes down with a torn Achilles. I'm not going to say his presence would have negated a Jonnu Smith trade or precluded that, but
right.
I think they were looking at their room and saying, okay, I mean, Pat Freiermuth, obviously we like him, but Darnell Washington, I wasn't necessarily drinking the Kool-Aid on him all of a sudden becoming a difference maker. I just don't think that's ever going to be his calling card in the NFL as far as route running, going down the seam, making those kind of plays. I just don't necessarily know that that's in him. Connor Hayward's got that, but he doesn't have the size. So ipso facto, you get back to the, you want a fourth tight end like you had last year with Michael Pruitt. And now Jonnu Smith was available for the right price, and the Steelers deemed this was the right price. I assume he's going to be a major factor in this passing game.
Yeah, I do gotta assume there's something going on here. I want to discuss another aspect here because there seems to be multiple ways to view this, right? There's an in Khan we trust that the Steelers are being aggressive. This is what you wanted to see. There's other people who think that the Steelers are just throwing darts against a wall. We have Tomlin isn't competent. Seriously, gave up a first-round pick for Minkah, now traded for old, washed-up CB. Now, I think it's kind of wild to ask if he's incompetent for trading for Minkah Fitzpatrick for a first-round pick back in 2019 before the doggone pandemic. And
player values change. We know this.
Right. So, so it's tough to say that. But I want to talk about this. There's still other aspects to talk about here. We're going to do that next here on the North Shore Drive podcast from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Don't go anywhere. We still have plenty of angles to discuss here. But first, remind you, the show is also brought to you by UFC Gym Pittsburgh. If you're looking for a way to challenge your body and sharpen your mind, step into something more than just a workout. Welcome to the brand new Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Academy at UFC Gym. Here, it's not just about training. It's about living up to the values of honor, discipline, and respect. Whether you're a total beginner or leveling up your skills, you're going to be guided through a structured program led by a third-degree black belt instructor who builds confidence, strength, flexibility, and real technique. Head down to the UFC Gym at the Waterfront or Market Square today to learn about the exclusive 3-month introductory package today. That's only at UFC Gym Pittsburgh. We're also brought to you by Boss at Boss Menswear at Ross Park Mall. Boss Menswear has reached icon status for its tailoring, but offers more than just the perfect suit. The collections also feature casual and athleisure pieces, presenting a complete wardrobe for the fast-paced modern lifestyle. Tailoring and sportswear are brought together in a look that is ready for whatever the day may hold. Go to Boss today, now open at Ross Park Mall with a selection of menswear pieces. We're back here on the North Shore Drive podcast from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Chris Carter and Brian Batko. We're doing a live stream. Shout out to the 3,800 people that are currently watching us on a live stream right now. Wherever you're watching us, it looks like we're up on our YouTube page, both of our Facebook pages, and my personal Twitter account. So shout out that. I gotta say, Brian, this blew us both out of the water. Brian and I were literally texting. I was walking to the kitchen to pour me a bowl of cereal that I could eat right before our show. We were going to talk about, we're going to do a breakout players draft, like which young players that are not stars could become stars this year for the Steelers. And Omar Khan said, hit the button. Boom. Don't care what you're doing for breakfast. I still haven't eaten breakfast. I'm starving right now. It's 11:50. It's about to be noon. I haven't eaten anything because I was planning on eating something 2 to 3 hours ago. But Omar Khan wanted to throw my whole day up in the air. So, Brian, back to what we kind of hinted at there. The question of
Omar coming.
Omar coming. And the question of, is there a master plan here, or are the Steelers just swinging wildly at things? Also, shout out, apparently, EA Sports is bringing back the March Madness college basketball, so that'll be fun to play at some point. But Tyreek Hill just posted the Will Smith meme when he's looking around at the end of the Fresh Prince Bel-Air finale, where he's looking around at the empty house of the house that they have in Bel-Air. So, Brian, is there a grand scheme, do you think, that's in plan here, or do you think the Steelers are kind of just swinging wildly because it's time to make some aggressive moves?
Look, I mean, I'm going to keep it a buck here, Chris. People don't come to us for the hot takes of the Steelers are geniuses or the Steelers are idiots. They have no idea what they're doing. Look, I'm going to keep an open mind on all of this. Maybe next time Mike Tomlin or Omar Khan gets up to the podium and lays this all out, it's going to become clear what the vision is, or like I said before, maybe they're going to leak stuff out and the back channels are going to paint a better picture of why this all happened. But for me, right now on paper, I don't think it makes a ton of sense what they're doing. It almost seems like the old cliche of shuffling deck chairs on the Titanic. The big deals of the last couple of years, the last few years really, made sense to me for the most part. George Pickens had to go. It just wasn't, it wasn't a good situation. There were factors far beyond what he could do between the lines that made that trade not stunning when it happened. Deontay Johnson, same thing. Like I said before, trading for DK Metcalf before you really had a quarterback in place was a little bit of a head scratcher. But I'm going to go ahead and assume that they had long ago decided that they were willing to do business with Aaron Rodgers when they made that move. It's just a matter of ironing out the details. So, and even trading away Kenny Pickett, which I think is, probably the most seismic Steelers move, on the short list with this one that just happened. That was one that, it was surprising because the Steelers don't usually operate that impatiently. Yeah. But Kenny, you could argue that it just wasn't a very good 2 years for him. And it was time to rip that up and move on and try to upgrade quickly when you've got Cam Hayward and TJ Watt kind of coming down the back nine there. And that's another, tentacle of all of this is the salary cap matters. And I almost think that's not as imperative for the Steelers because Omar Khan is really good at that aspect of the job. He's going to make the money work, but where does this leave them with TJ Watt and his potential contract extension? Where does this leave them with Jalen Ramsey? I mean, is this a 1-year move or are they going to sign him to a completely new deal? Or are they going to, I know that it's been reported that he's getting a raise for this year, but sometimes in the NFL, you're just moving money around to make things more palatable when you kick the can down the road or not. But and Jonnu Smith, I guess, is getting the raise that he wanted from Miami as well. Just from talking to a couple people who, I'm sure much like me, Chris, you get people hitting you up who cover other teams. Like, whoa, what are the Steelers up to today? Like, what's going on? Yeah. Someone said like, oh, this looks like the Dolphins are just punting on this season and the Steelers are happy to go ahead and oblige and kind of go bargain hunting. Maybe that's part of it. I don't really understand why they would want to acquire Minkah in that case, unless they just look at it as an expiring deal situation. So there's a lot that is going to become, I guess, crystallized once we see where the dust settles with the financial aspects of it. But I'll come back to it again with the bottom line of it. When you look at the 2 deep on a depth chart and the X's and O's and all of that stuff, I don't really see what they're going for.
There's the only way this makes sense to me is there's other moves coming, right? Because again, like Minkah Fitzpatrick was part of your leaders. He was like, he was part of the guys that said like, hey, the buck stops here. We got to be better. And like, you typically don't trade away those guys. And so Omar Khan flipping things upside down, it made sense to flip things upside down on offense where things just hadn't been working. Hey, you know what? Kenny Pickett don't like it here. Out of here. Mitch Trubisky, you stunk. Out of here. Mason Rudolph. Well, you don't want to just stick around, so you're out of here. Here's Justin Fields. Here's Russell Wilson. We're gonna make this happen. We're gonna see what we do here. Oh, you know what? Justin Fields. Okay, fine. Justin Fields is off to the Jets. We're not bothering with Russell Wilson. We're gonna draft a Will Howard. We're gonna bring back Mason. We're gonna do Aaron Rodgers. We're gonna do all these things. They're making aggressive moves, right? They're trying to rebuild the offense. They've been doing it. The defense has been a top 10 unit for 3 straight years. And yes, you could say they could be better than that. But a top 10 unit, that's stability. 3 straight years of you kind of know who you are. And that's with subpar offenses most of those years. I'd say even last year, they were kind of like middle of the road. The 2 years before that, they were definitely well below middle of the road. So my question here is Brian, there has to be another move coming. Like literally, just the other day, I think there was a video of Tyreek Hill saying like, I can't wait. We're going to work out with Jalen Ramsey. We're going to be great teammates again. I'm excited to work with that guy. And now he's gone. Is there another big move coming from Omar Khan? Like, are we about to do this again in a few hours and say Tyreek Hill? Because like now I've been saying like, hey guys, Steelers fans, calm down. Don't you dare think Terry McLaurin's going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. Don't you dare think this guy's going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. Because I try to give everyone straight up. Like I operate I understand how the Steelers normally operate. This is not normal. This breaks the normal. This breaks everything that I understood what the Steelers normally did. And Omar Khan is saying, yeah, it's a new day in the Steelers front office. That may not mean it's a good thing. It might mean this could be the Steelers swinging and missing bad, and this could backfire, as several people in the comments have kind of hinted at here. But I look at the potential for what I understood for how the Steelers operate, and now I wonder if, hey, they're going to go get someone else really soon, because why wouldn't they? Because now they got people. They're adding people right now to be more aggressive right now. I put it this way, and several people have now commented on this potentially being the thing. Does this signal to you, maybe, Brian, as Dwight Jefferson puts here on YouTube, is this Mike Tomlin's last go at it? And this is what they're just loading up to give him one last chance before he retires or leaves, or whatever happens there? Or is that maybe reading way too much into this?
I wouldn't make that leap. I mean, if that were the case, like, geez, just, can you grit your teeth and deal with George Pickens for one more year and see what happens with him and DK Metcalf lining up on the outsides? Or, if that's the case, why are you worried about comp picks for next year? If that's the case,
good point.
Keep Jalen Ramsey and Minkah Fitzpatrick, and see what happens. And who cares about 2026? So no, I don't really think it's that. I'm sure Mike Tomlin has admired Jalen Ramsey for a long time. The other interesting aspect of this too, Jalen Ramsey, he had a falling out with the Dolphins, and he's a big personality. There's no doubt about that. He's pretty high on himself, I think it's fair to say. DK Metcalf too wanted more money from the Seahawks. The Steelers gave it to him. So, they're taking on some egos here. I don't think it's necessarily fair to characterize them as divas. And, I've already seen kind of the false equivalency online of people go, oh, the Steelers trade away George Pickens and Deontay Johnson for their drama and headaches just to go turn around and acquire Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, Jalen Ramsey. That kind of, like, I don't really think those are fair comparisons to make. Mm-hmm. But I mean, there definitely is something to be said for you're assembling sort of that, like you mentioned at the top here, Chris, like a video game type of roster.
Yeah.
But here's the thing though, is like, as you mentioned, we both try to do the level-headed beat writer reporter thing when you're engaging with fans, whether it's on here, chats, mailbags, whatever. You can't really roll out anything these days in this Omar Khan era of GMing, except for, I guess, a head coaching change or major coaching changes when it comes to the Steelers. But yeah, I mean, Mike Tomlin said after last year that there were going to be some big changes. I think now we know that it wasn't necessarily about coordinators or really shaking up his staff, which a lot of fans still think should have happened. And I don't necessarily disagree with them on that, but I think it was probably more about, hey, I've got some certain guys on the roster circled that they might not be here come September, and we're sort of ready to turn that page. And Steelers have turned quite a few pages this offseason, Chris.
They might turn some more. Let me ask you this, because people are now bringing this up. What does this mean for TJ Watt? Does it mean anything for TJ Watt? Because a lot of people are saying, there's some people saying this means TJ Watt gets paid. This means TJ Watt's gone. This means nothing. I don't know if this directly means anything specifically for TJ Watt. I think that the Steelers and TJ Watt, Steelers are probably putting in an offer. TJ Watt's probably playing it cool. He's probably like, look, I just had a kid in March. I'm TJ Watt. I'm the best defensive player in football. You guys love me. I love you guys. I talked to Alex Highsmith. I talked to Mike Tomlin. I talked to Denzel Martin, the position coach. Everybody, Nick Herbig. They're all like, oh yeah, we're talking to TJ all the time. We don't have much concerns about that. It might not be mean anything for TJ Watt. He might just be coming back, and they just know it. And training camp will arrive. He'll sign his deal at some point, and that'll be a footnote in what has been really a blockbuster offseason for big Steelers moves. And I mean, let's also examine just this offseason alone here, Brian. You trade away, you trade for DK Metcalf, making him the highest paid receiver in Steelers history. You trade away George Pickens, who was your best offensive playmaker last season. You go out and you sign Aaron Rodgers to this offense. You go out and you sign Darius Slay, and now you trade away a defensive captain. I think this to me,
you let Najee Harris go in free agency, which I didn't think that was surprising, but he was a mainstay for the last 4 years. So yeah, you toss that in there as well. Yeah, I mean it's people are still asking us a lot about the tight end position. I would imagine Pat Freiermuth's probably chilling on a beach somewhere because it's the off season, but
yeah,
I think you get that notification. You're like, okay, All-Pro tight end from last season is now coming to my team. Maybe it'll be great for both of them. 12 personnel will be hitting, and Aaron Rodgers will be dropping dimes over the middle of the field. I would think that's the plan, but nobody can really feel too comfortable right now on this team, I would imagine. Well, DeShon Elliott's probably feeling good about that contract extension, but things are changing massively in his secondary. So, and even Darius Slay, I mean, he signed for 1 year, $10 million, and he was all excited. We were at his introductory press conference. He was, pumped to kind of mentor Joey Porter Jr. and maybe give it one last go. Hey, you know what? We've been, I would say, looking at this with a skeptical, critical eye. We can also entertain the notion of these are very accomplished players who have achieved a lot in the NFL, and it's forming a little bit of a super team kind of vibe because you're giving up less than what you're bringing in. But I'll keep coming back to, like, when we talked to Mike Tomlin about the Aaron Rodgers signing, his only response was kind of look at his resume. Well,
Google him.
Google him, look at his resume. I mean, Mike, at some point you have to build your roster with people who you're less concerned about the resume and more concerned with what they're going to be able to do for you in the upcoming season. And that's the many million dollar question now with this team assembled is, what are they going to do in this upcoming season? Are they just guys with good resumes, or are they guys who can actually help you close the gap in the AFC?
One person here, David Barnes, brings up Ramsey will defend the slot. He's elite there. I don't know about his slot coverage numbers, but I do know he played 185 snaps in the slot last season for the Dolphins. So he is used to playing there, and it's not something that he did a whole bunch. The year before that, he only played 15 snaps in the slot. That's something that he had. There was 2 years ago, he played 213 snaps in the slot. So he has experience playing in the slot. I don't want to dismiss that at all. And maybe that's what the thing. Maybe this is a Beanie Bishop. Like, hey, go ride pine, young man. We're gonna put Jalen Ramsey in there. So I look at this and I think, to your point, the Steelers, it's tough to tell which direction they're going in right now. Are they building for the future? Are they going all in for right now? Is it a mix of both? Are they just saying, hey, you know what? We're going to go add players right now who make us a better competitor for this year moving forward. But also, maybe it's also to just be more ready for 2026. Because again, I still think that that's still the goal here, right? And even with this trade and everything else that they've done, I was the one thing I was saying when I didn't think about a player being involved in Jalen Ramsey. I did not think that could be part of any swap. And that I was thinking, okay, most they give up for Jalen Ramsey is a 4th round pick because they don't want to lose any day 1 or day 2 picks, because those are the primary picks that you trade in a hypothetical situation to get a quarterback in next year's draft class. And that, to me, is still the highest priority. Is if you trust that your quarterback is going to be available in this draft class, you are going all in to get the guy that you think is your guy. This move does not compromise this move. In fact, all you did was you flipped one of your 5ths for a 7th, and you're still getting an extra 5th next season because of the compensatory formula that they have. You also still have 2 4ths presumably for next season because of the compensatory pick, and you still have 3/3 with an extra compensatory pick and the George Pickens trade. So there's still room, in my opinion, for the Steelers to still be thinking about the future. I don't think that this move abandons their future. To me, it just calls into question who are the pillar players they see as central to who they are and what their identity is right now. Because if you asked me 3 hours ago, before this madness began, Minkah Fitzpatrick was right in that mix.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it is. I don't want to discount a 5th for a 7th. I mean, I think a 5th is a much higher value pick than a 7th, but I hear you. They're going to still have capital for next year. And I think I've probably used this analogy on the show before, but it strikes me even more today with what's gone on is it's like Mike Tomlin is up front manning the grill, and he's like, I'm throwing a steak on there. I'm throwing a burger on there. I'm throwing a hot dog on. Let me throw some chicken on there. Let me add some barbecue sauce. Like, let's see what this meal is going to be in 2025. But in the kitchen, Omar Khan's got something simmering in the slow cooker that everybody has to be very patient about enjoying down the line. And that is all of the draft capital that they've tried to accrue for getting that next franchise quarterback in here as soon as 2026, when the draft is right here on the shores of the Allegheny River in Pittsburgh. So, yeah, I mean, it's a team that it seems like it's got 1 foot in the future, 1 foot in the present. And, it's like a rebuild or a retool on the fly here. We know they always want to stay competitive. And I think you're going to hear takes around the local media, maybe the national media too, of like, are the Steelers this obsessed with having a winning record every year that they are going and trading for Jonnu Smith and Jalen Ramsey and signing Aaron Rodgers and sort of losing the plot here? And again, I think Omar Khan, if he were, just talking to you at the bar, would probably say, no, that's not what we're doing. We have an eye on next season. We've worked the compensatory pick formula. We're going to be in good position to move up if there's a guy we identify and target at QB next year. So don't necessarily worry too much about moves that we think make us better in the short term.
Yeah, I think that's the bottom line here. There's still so many aspects to cover here, Brian. We're going to cover all of it for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Stay tuned because we have several aspects to look at here. I got to go in the film room and start looking up Jalen Ramsey tape and putting that together. We'll have a film study on him, probably do something on Jonnu Smith as well.
I watched some Ramsey in the last couple of weeks because here's the thing. People kept asking me in chats and mailbags and even or just on the radio, like Jalen Ramsey or Jair Alexander, are the Steelers going to go for one of those guys? And I said, I don't think they would be interested in Jair Alexander. A lot of injury issues. He's really only ever played outside. But Jalen Ramsey is a more versatile player. And you go back and watch, and 185 snaps in the slot, that's not a ton, but it's more than Jair Alexander. It's more than Darius Slay. It's certainly more than Joey Porter Jr. So it is something to work with there potentially. And, they blitzed him from there at times in Miami. And, he's good at that. I mean, he's 6'1". There's a reason why he was the 5th overall pick in the draft. He is your prototypical outside corner build. And, if this is going to be a reimagining of how he plays, then that's intriguing. Like I said, I'll certainly keep an open mind on that. And maybe it will work. Maybe it'll be an upgrade from all of the struggles that the Steelers had with trying to get Minkah Fitzpatrick to play Minkah ball and, get him around the ball more while also letting him be in the deep third and make plays on it. Like it seemed like these last 2 or 3 years, there had been a disconnect in the best way to use him. So maybe they solve that issue and, get a really good player too in Ramsey, who's motivated to prove wrong whatever happened with him and the Dolphins, that they both agreed they should part ways and all of that stuff. So, so I have watched a little bit of it. Can he do it? Yeah. But is Jalen Ramsey coming here to be a 70 to 80% snaps of the player? Yeah. I mean, an all-pro guy like him who reset the market at corner a couple years ago? I don't know about that. So there's still a lot we have to sift through, to say the least.
I don't know what's going on in our comment section here, but a lot of people keep saying John Gruden ? John Gruden trash. I hear Gruden is trash, and then I love this comment right here. Tomlin is trash. He was handed a team. Gruden is gritty and has the perfect mentality for what the Steelers need. Gruden's literal claim to fame is inheriting Tony Dungy's Buccaneers, winning a Super Bowl immediately, and then them falling off a cliff into, people say Mike Tomlin's mediocrity. There's several losing seasons with John Gruden and the Buccaneers. He literally did that. So if you accuse Mike Tomlin of inheriting a team, John Gruden is the king of inheriting a team. I don't want to ever hear that stuff. But so I don't know what's going on with John Gruden and why people bring him up. I did a quick Twitter search to make sure that he's not being traded to the Steelers for some reason. Okay. So wrapping up here, it's just one guy, Gruden burner account. Okay, that's funny. All right, so just making sure that was nothing crazy here. But wrapping up here, Brian, if you're the Steelers, what is the next thing that you do for your front office? Do you go and get another safety to build into your safety room? Do you go get Justin Simmons, Julian Blackmon, or are you still eyeing up that wide receiver 2 big move to bring that guy in and make this offense even more built out.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I guess if they think Juan Thornhill can still do it, then how much are those guys really an upgrade over him? I mean, Thornhill says he was dealing with the calf problem a lot last season and that he's still got a lot left in the tank, but every player says that. So I don't know. I really don't. I mean, the receiver room is not great when you just look at it on paper. So I could see them adding there, but what type of player are you getting? Another big body, straight line, deep threat in case something would happen to DK Metcalf? Or do you want somebody who can, quickly get open and have that rapport with Aaron Rodgers? Or can Roman Wilson or Calvin Austin be that? I think they probably need a little bit more size in that room, if you ask me. Robert Woods is, somebody who I'm not really sure what box he checks of everything I just rattled off there. So, yeah, I mean, if that's the case, or maybe again they figured we're not going to be playing a ton of 11 personnel. We're going to be rolling Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth out there. We're going to play some 13 personnel where Darnell Washington is in the mix too. So maybe that lessens the desire and need for another pure wide receiver too. Yeah, I mean these are the types of questions that do have some fans, I think, wondering, like, are they just throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks? I don't know. Like I said, I'll keep an open mind and obviously try to do some digging and talk to people and find out, like, what is the mission here? What is the objective? What's going on in general? But yeah, as far as what's their next move, like I said before, how can you roll out anything with the way Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin have been rolling in recent seasons? Seems like they're willing to try just about anything to try to elevate this team. Again, except for significant coaching changes. Other than Matt Canada getting fired midseason a couple years ago, they did do that. But all three coordinators and head coach back from last season. It's the roster that gets a major, major overhaul that continues on.
Well, there's lots of things to cover here. If you're just getting here, yes, Minkah Fitzpatrick is gone. Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith are Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going to cover all of that for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette in the coming hours, days, week. It's nuts. I'm supposed to go on vacation on Friday. So like,
you're supposed to get married in like 2 weeks. So.
Yeah, well, putting my nuptials out there. But yeah, like I'm just glad. You know what? My fiance and I, we joked during the Aaron Rodgers wait for him to sign saga that he was going to sign while we were at the altar. And I was going to have to literally be like, I gotta go, T. I gotta go do my I gotta do my live stream for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette and do that. And so once he signed, I was like, oh, thank you. That's done. That's out the way. I don't have to worry about that. But now I don't trust Omar Khan. Omar Khan keeps ruining my mornings with these blockbuster moves, with trying to get everything done. And now I am worried that on my wedding day, this man's gonna come out. He's gonna trade for Terry McLaurin, and I'm just gonna be like, the heck am I supposed to do? I'm getting married today. I'm gonna be at my own wedding doing live streams. So thank you to the people that give me some congratulations. Appreciate that. It's a long time coming, but yeah, Brian, there's a lot of angles to cover here. We're gonna cover all of it here at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Chris Carter, Brian Batko. Stay tuned here for all the other things. This turned out to be our Monday episode because we normally do Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the North Shore Drive podcast, but we said we'll do it live because this was too much of a breaking news opportunity. We had to do that. So shout out to everyone who joined us here. We ended up with 4,400 plus people here on the live stream. If you're coming here at the end of it, we are doing you can click it. You can click back to watch the whole thing. We had several reactions to Minkah Fitzpatrick, Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith angles of this and what it might mean for other moves for the Steelers. But don't worry, we have more coming your way. Stay tuned at post-gazette.com if you want film study. I'm about to get cracking on some Jalen Ramsey film, put something together for y'all. Hopefully that'll be up by tomorrow or tonight. So stay tuned for all of that. Subscribe to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette if you haven't, and subscribe here to the Post-Gazette's sports YouTube page to get all of our updates, all of our shows, all of everything here for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. From Chris Carter and Brian Batko, thanks so much for joining us here on the live stream. We'll see you again very soon here on the North Shore Drive podcast. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the North Shore Drive podcast from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all the sports coverage from the Post-Gazette that we have to offer, visit post-gazette.com.